All right, everybody, welcome to the league. My name is Ezra,
And I'm Beanie.
and hey Beanie, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up, man?
It was good to see you today. I know we had a prayer breakfast. I'm sorry, not a prayer breakfast, but we were at a men's breakfast this morning, and the bacon was fire. Dude.
Yeah, it was. That's how deer sausage was too.
Yeah, I didn't get the dish sausage. I got a couple of issues with wild wild game, so that's a different story, different topic another time. But either way, yeah, all of that was fire, man. So today we're gonna be talking about something that's dear to your heart, and um, it's something that I didn't get started in until you just kept pounding it, brother.
And now you can't get
And
enough
that
of it.
is right. And so I'm kind of addicted to it, trying to work on it. Me and Jesus having conversations and stuff. I got to go to CR on Monday night, but neither here nor there, man. Um, we're gonna talk about fantasy football, like which is like fantasy football and then fantasy sports period. But fantasy football because that's like one of your favorite subjects, and it's something that we talk about. I did not understand where I was gonna be in this whole thing. I was apprehensive about it. I always wanted to try it, but not until you got me to try it, dude. So we're gonna start off like this. How did you get started in fantasy football?
Um, I don't exactly remember. I think I seen it somewhere before. Me and my dad actually, when I first got any kind of interest in it, we did for 1 year. We did us. It was me and him on NFL.com fantasy, and we each had two teams,
Okay.
and we
So
each had
have
two teams, and we did the draft offline, sitting next to each other. I still on the computer and asked him what players he wanted. I don't even remember my team back then. I may one. I know one of us had Aaron Rodgers. I don't even remember who.
okay. That's another story. We'll talk about him later.
That was in
Just
that
want
was
to
in
make sure.
2013, I think.
Okay.
Then
So
2014, I got my family into it when I started my own league on Yahoo.
so when you say family, how many people you talking?
There was that our very first league was 12 teams.
Oh wow. And this is all family?
Yes,
That's crazy,
cousins,
dude.
aunts, uncles, dad, myself, all family.
So you out there evangelizing fantasy fantasy football.
We and like after me and my dad did the little league together, when we got familiar with it, we started the big
Uh-huh.
family league. It ran on Yahoo until with the same name from 2014 to I want to say 2020 was the end. No, 2021 maybe. One of those
So
was
right
the
at
end of that league name.
so right at COVID, everything kind of tapered off. And that's crazy. COVID kind of hampered a lot of stuff. And I know 2021 we kind of started coming back to things. It still was a lot of stuff going on. 2022, we kind of got a little bit back to normalcy and things of that nature. But 2021 is when you got me started, and
That was the first year that was the first new year with the new league. It was mainly church people.
okay, so this league started. There was like okay, so
That
where
was
we
the
go to
beginning
church,
of Welcome to
we
the
have.
League, and then with a lot of people from church, it's still some family mixed in there.
So we got at our church we have what we do is small groups for anybody that's listening. We do small groups. That's like a format that everybody that a lot of churches use nowadays. Some people still say Bible class, Sunday school, so on and so forth. But other churches say small groups and this, that, and all the other. So what it does is it allows us to do a lot of different things to bring together people within the body of Christ, and then people that's not even a part of the church. It still allows everybody to grow and fellowship together. So Sorry, excuse me. Um, so I remember, um, I want to say probably like 2020. Somebody said something to me about getting into fantasy football, and I was like, nah, I was still in college. I think I was going to Bible college. I was, still trying to do the dad thing. I'm still doing the dad thing and still doing the husband thing and all of that. But everything was just like, okay, yeah, it's too much right now. I'm working and interning and so on and so forth. So I remember 2021 between you, Mike, and Logan, especially you. You like, dude, you got to come and do this with us. Man, come and do this with us. So on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, I, I've been wanting to do fantasy for a long time, like early 2000s, whenever fantasy started. And I'm like, all right, cool. I'll go ahead and do it. And I almost didn't. But, dude, when I started, oh my gosh. Like we were saying earlier, I got like totally addicted. I love football anyway. I didn't get to play for real when I was in school. I got a chance to go out, but neither here nor there. This is like kind of like that way that I get to, redo or relive that. But man, when I say I did not think that I was gonna love it like I do, my wife is like, "What you going to do? Fantasy football again?" She's not bad like that, but still, she's like, "That's all you talk about is football. All you talk about is football." Like, blame it on Beanie. Blame it on Beanie.
There's a lot of things men can do with their time.
Hey, right. But one of the reasons why I agreed to do it is because it was a small group within church. It was guys that I knew and
Yeah, me,
like just
Mike, and
hanging out with y'all,
Logan
man.
helped start Welcome to the League Fantasy. And
Yeah,
then Mike took it over, and then I switched. I started the Dynasty League afterwards.
right. Oh, which we're gonna get into that a little bit later. One of the things that happened too was me and you got to know each other a little bit better. We already knew each other pretty good, but we got to know each other a little bit better and was like, we were like, dude, we need to start talking about this stuff. And next thing you know, boom, here we are with a whole podcast and sports show talking about football, fantasy football, and just anything football. Whether we know about it, don't know about it, it went from, hey man, come be in our fantasy football league to welcome to the league sports show. I'm Ezra. This is Benny. Blah 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 blah. It's crazy, man. So okay, so when you started, what was the first platform that you that you and your family or you and your group did
um,
your first league on? You and your dad.
we did it on NFL.com, and then the following season, when we got all of the family into it, and it became this big 12-team league, is we switched to Yahoo because my
Okay.
uncle Claude had suggested switching to Yahoo because it was a better platform because he had been playing fantasy for years when he found out about it.
Now, keeping in context that this is 10 years ago, and then you probably switched. I'm pretty sure, like with the NFL, with NFL.com, it was probably free at the time. I'm pretty sure it's still free now if you do it on NFL.com.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
when we were switched to Yahoo, it wasn't we had league fees and all that when it was the
okay,
family league.
okay, but the platform itself,
The platform is
when you
free.
yeah, so when you switched over to Yahoo Sports, Yahoo Sports is one that I know a lot of people use, and
Yeah.
they put a lot of things out there, and they were advertising pretty good at one particular point. So what all platforms have you used, and talk about the platform that we're currently on?
All right. Look, I used the NFL when we switched to Yahoo. Yahoo is like Yahoo is still really good until I found where we're at now. Now I did do before I go to where we're at now because of whatever. I did mess around with ESPN fantasy. Why is my camera blurry?
I don't know. I was like, it might be the the fantasy platformers. fooling with your focus.
I don't know. Maybe it's the internet.
Yeah, yeah,
But
it's
anyway,
blurry over on. Yeah,
it might
in a
fix
way, it's
itself.
kind of cool.
It might fix itself. Oh well, we're live. We're recording, so it might fix.
Yeah,
Hopefully, it fixes itself. If not, I'm censored. oh,
right. They're putting you on witness protection. You start all
there
this
it
stuff.
goes. It
Oh,
fixed.
there you go. There you go.
Oh no! And then I messed around with ESPN. I didn't like it. But so it was mainly. It's mainly been Yahoo from like ever now. Where we're at now, however, I had actually found out about this app from my old boss that I used to work with at Winn Dixie.
Uh huh.
His league is on Sleeper. He's the one that he told me download Sleeper and you'll get all your fantasy football news immediate, all that. Well, I didn't know Sleeper had, and I knew Sleeper had leagues with it. So when I decided to give Welcome to the League WTCL to Mike to manage because he wants to be a commissioner and go to the creating a new league in the
A
Dynasty
dynasty league.
platform
Right.
in a Dynasty style because I'd been doing research on Dynasty and it's so much like franchise mode on Madden. It really
Man,
is. I love it.
bruh.
And so when we went to Dynasty, I put that league on a sleeper, invited friends, family, everybody into it. And then Mike decided, hey, let's bring Welcome to the League to Sleeper since Beanie, Ezra, Logan, and everybody are talking about how great this app is. Let's bring it. So Mike went and
Dude,
looked at it. So now Mike's brought Welcome to the League to Sleeper. Now both of our leagues are on the same platform, which would be
on
so
sleeping
nice.
platform. Yeah. So now for me, starting with I think we were what on the Yahoo
Yeah.
Sports platform
Ultimate League
with
was on Yahoo.
WTF. Okay, so Welcome to the League was on Yahoo, and actually I think it's still a really good platform, especially starting out that type of deal for anybody that wants to do fantasy. You can't lose with it. ESPN's I don't dislike it, but if you don't get all the functionality right at first, it can make for a real crazy
And
experience.
that's how
But like I said,
NFL.com
it,
was.
it's still good. It's still good. So depending on how you want to run your league and that type of deal, it's still a good platform. I don't think any of them are bad platforms by any stretch of the imagination. Just depending on what it is that you want to do, and especially me being newer at it than you. Like I'm going into year 3 now, and seeing the difference in the 3 years between the three platforms between Yahoo Sports, ESPN, and then Sleeper. Sleeper is killing it, and I'm talking about killing it. Like you said, one of my favorite things to do on Madden was franchise mode, and I think I probably did franchise mode trading and training players and creating like a new team on a regular basis. It was something that I
I still
totally
do to
totally
today.
enjoyed. And so, I don't get on games that much anymore, but it's still like one of my things. And when you brought us over to brought us from regular fantasy in a dynasty, I'm like, what is this dynasty you speak of? And I'm like, dude, dynasty is what? I'm looking at draft picks, I'm looking at money, I'm looking at multiple years, I'm looking at like the first year we get to pick all these players, and then we get to pick, we get putting people in taxi, so it's like they're on a practice squad, and you still getting them there where they able to go here. You got injured reserve, I mean, it's all kind of craziness, dude. And I'm like, man, this is dope. So look, my voice got high pitched, so I'm not lying, y'all. So when you said that one of your old supervisors hyped you to it. How long did it take before you even went to the sleeper app? Was it something you did immediate, or did you wait a second?
How long before I got it? I got it the day of.
Oh, so the same day he said, you were like, "Let me go check this out."
Same day
Okay.
he's like, hey, look, this is where I play at. This gives all your information for your news. Um, go check it out. I'm like, all right, cool. I went and checked it out. I was like, man, he asked me what I thought. I was like, I love it. It's great. He goes, yeah, you can win your league with that app. Like now when your whole league's on that app. Because now everybody has access to the
Yeah,
information that you do. It's a matter of
yeah,
accessing it on it quick.
yeah.
Like
I like how. Oh, go ahead. My bad.
last year in our dynasty league, my cousin Adam won it. And Logan won the league for the second time in a row. We got to unseat him.
Yeah, yeah. I told him no three peats. I told him no three peats today, and he was like, "Nah, I'm gonna get that." I'm like, "Nah, we ain't got time for that. No three peats for you." So, but he one of the things that I like about I don't know if you can do it on the other platforms or not, but the one of the things that I like about when we first started Dynasty last year in our first draft, it was like, okay, so let's do some trades, and we're literally right after the draft. Not only are we able to trade, we're able to do multiple people trade. Like we did three ways. I think we did a four-way trade.
Yeah, they
The
did a
same
lot
night
that same
we
night.
did we did a four-way, a three-way. Of course, you can do the two-way, but we did a three and a four-way trade that was like ridiculous. So you're able to trade picks, players, and money. And it's virtual cash. It's virtual cash. There's no gambling involved. Um, if that's your thing, that's your thing. But neither here
I'm
nor
saving all
there.
my
But
virtual cash for after our draft this year.
yeah, dude, I can't wait to the draft. I can't wait. I got seven picks.
I got six.
I totally remade my whole roster because I mean I came in last with the players that I had. So coming in last with the players that I had, I couldn't mess up. You know, can't mess up, so to say. So neither here nor there. One of the things that we talked about outside of the platforms was how we go about drafting. Since we're talking about drafting, how we go about drafting players, and how free agency impacts the way you draft in fantasy slash dynasty. And so let's talk about that for a second. Um, Free agency this year has been crazy because you got all of these teams that have had great players. Like I didn't realize the Eagles has lost as many players as they have. They've recouped some good players, but then you have other
What happens
teams
when you
that
go to
have
the
lost.
Super Bowl? They tear apart your team.
Oh, most definitely. Your team and your coaches,
Yeah.
which, like for the Rams, they've had coaches taken every year since Sean McVay has been um, the head coach of them. So neither here nor there. Now it's a thing of where like they've lost a lot of players this year, partly because of their style of how they do free agency. But with that being said, talk about the impact of free agency on the way you draft in dynasty and in fantasy, but also versus dynasty in fantasy.
Well, I mean, with Dynasty versus Fantasy, and we're going to use it's redraft, but we're just going to call it Fantasy. Dynasty versus redraft. Um, well, Dynasty once free agency's over with NFL free agency, most Dynasty leagues open up their free agency and they'll let people do their training and all that to prepare for the draft. Usually with Dynasty leagues, the draft's not until midsummer when mini camps and stuff opens up, and then whereas in a redraft league, you go all the way to preseason
You're saying redraft as in like
as regular fantasy
regular
redraft.
fantasy. Yeah, regular fantasy league.
Regular fantasy is what as they call it redraft. You don't keep no players.
Right.
The way that it affected our league this year in free agency is the moment free agency started, the trade started flying in our league because we've been opened up since the end of since I think a month after the Super Bowl was over with. Like the beginning of March is
Yeah,
when we
something
opened
like
up
that.
our
Yeah.
free agency, mainly because we were all Jones and then we were ready to start playing again. um, so there's been a bunch of trades. Like Ezra said, he rebuilt his team. I rebuilt mine, and I got one of probably the better. I think, and I don't think Keep Trade Cut and all these ranking sites aren't giving Derek Carr enough credit when he signed with the Saints. Yeah, I think he's how much he's going to affect on fantasy now.
I don't think it has anything to do with Derek Carr. I think it has more to do with Dennis Allen. I think it has more to do with Dennis Allen. How is Dennis Allen going to be able to utilize all the offensive weapons that he has now? Because you got Michael Thomas coming back, you got Derek Carr, you got Chris Olave, you have um was it Jamal Williams?
Yeah, that's another
You
impact
have you
player
have
because of the
Alvin
Alvin Kamara
Kamara.
situation.
So like even and let's use the Saints as an example. So right now, if you were in fantasy or in dynasty last year, and we'll say dynasty, you were in dynasty last year, you had DeAndre Swift and you had Jamal Williams for Detroit. Now you don't have Jamal Williams and he's going to New Orleans, and it's like, okay, wait, before he before he got now you trade him or his value goes. I mean, and everybody's value goes up and down depending on, like right now. I would say somebody that has unrecognized value right now would be like Leonard Fournette. Like Leonard Fournette won't get picked up until
Ezekiel
after the
Elliott
draft.
also.
Say what?
Ezekiel Elliott, wherever he goes,
Yeah,
his value is going to tremendously either go up or down. Same
yeah.
thing with Kareem.
So
Kareem Hunt, I think, is free agent also. His value is going to go up or down wherever he goes because
yeah,
the
like
running
the
backs
running
aren't
back market.
valued as much as they should be. But think about this: if you send Zeke to Cincinnati,
And that's the speculation right now. That Cincinnati
then
is the
Joe
front runner
Mixon's
to
value
possibly getting.
drops. Joe Mixon's value drops. Zeke's goes up because he's back, but he's behind a good offensive line again.
Right.
And now you got them two number one running backs battling it out.
And you got Joe Mixon with. I understand that the charges were dropped because of whatever mistrial or whatever the situation was that happened with his legal issue. But now you have somebody that has a character situation that the team may or may not want to deal with, and you pull in a person like an Ezekiel Elliott, and you have adequate runners behind Mixon already. Um, so you pull in an Elliott that I can see how that would make Mixon's value go
Yeah.
lower. Yeah. And then so in the respect of you already have this person on your roster, now you have to make a decision if you want to try to if you don't have Zeke on your roster. You go out and get a Zeke,
Do
do
you
you trade him
handcuff
in?
them together just in case you miss them?
Right. And speaking of handcuffs, like that's the other thing too. I feel like in fantasy versus dynasty, in fantasy, you don't necessarily want to handcuff a whole lot of players. One, because you don't have as many slots. I mean, you possibly could have a lot of
Yeah.
slots depending on,
And
but
yeah, in
depending
redraft
on
fantasy, you don't have a lot of slots.
yeah. But in oh my gosh, in dynasty,
We have like
and I know you can
15.
have defense. You can have defense in fantasy if that's your type of league. But like right now, we're working defense and offensive players on our rosters, and that was something else that I thought was like really cool. That makes a difference as to how you draft. Makes a difference in how you trade. Like we haven't had a whole lot of defensive player movement as far as trades go right now because when we were able to go pick up those free agents, we kind of got who we wanted. I think everybody kind of got who we wanted. We forgot about some guys, and some people were able to go pick up, a few people
Ezra
here or
got
there.
JC Horn. I need to get him.
No, uh, hey man, had to pick up my homie son. But neither here
But
nor there, dude.
I mean, and with defensive guys, to me, there's more of a when you only have four defensive positions to fill, you have more variety, and you have less likely to run multiple defensive guys on your bench. Especially with Welcome to the League this year, we only have five bench spots, five bench. That's it. I
Yeah.
think that's all that's on there.
So
So your lineup
um
has to be like really good. Mike's
yeah,
done a really good job when he set us up over here on Sleeper.
yeah. So I'm looking forward to that particular side of everything. When the
But
redraft happens.
in both, and we're getting in the impacts in both in both styles of leagues. The Carolina wide receiving core.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about
Yeah.
this until earlier. All right, they got rid of DJ Moore, but they pulled
Right.
up DJ. They pulled in DJ Shaw. They have Terrence Marshall Jr. already,
Yep. Adam Thielen.
and they pulled in Adam Thielen. Now, as a dynasty player, you kind of have to watch them and see. As a dynasty player, you kind of have to grab them all and see if who's going to come out as the number one over there. Where, or they might just be spread the ball out with CJ Stroud, which is likely Carolina's quarterback. Or
Right.
in redraft fantasy, regular fantasy, you're not going to draft a Carolina receiver until you know who's going to be the number one. And
So you're looking at,
Carolina's impact, that impact right there. Last year, Carolina didn't have a quarterback, so their wide receiving
and
core didn't really impact nobody.
don't forget they signed Andy Dalton too. So
Yeah,
you got a good veteran.
I
Cause
mean,
I mean,
so last year
honest,
DJ Moore's value was so low because they didn't have a quarterback to throw him the ball. Now they're going to have two: CJ Stroud and
right,
highly likely CJ Stroud and Andy Dalton.
right.
So that's to me that wide receiving core that they signed impacts fantasy a huge amount now.
Right, and don't forget they went and got Hayden Hurst. Wasn't Hayden Hurst with Cincinnati last
Yeah,
year? Yeah. So you got Hayden Hurst, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. Then they picked up Miles Sanders to go with Tuba Hubbard. And Tuba Hubbard was splitting time last year. But even with that being said, what if a Tuba Hubbard can become like and I'm gonna go back for a second because they were really, really productive together before one of them got traded. But Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara were like the two best uh running back by committee or two best running back tandem in the league for about 2, 3 seasons straight. And I'm talking about between receiving out of the backfield, rushing yards, yards per average, catches per average, yards per catch, so on and so forth for running backs. So what if Miles Sanders and Tuba Hubbard can become that, and in dynasty versus in dynasty is like you have both players on your roster. If you can start them in a flex spot, then you have both of them and they're doing well. If again by committee type of situation. Now, if you got a starter and one's on the bench, then it's a little bit different.
yeah, but
And I guess
that free agent signing affected Miles Sanders stock a little bit in fantasy because now he's gonna split times, but he was number one in Philadelphia.
right, he's a number. I don't know. I don't know if that hurts Miles Sanders or it hurts Tuba Hubbard more. Because what if Miles Sanders gets in there and he's like CMC when he was in Carolina? When he started, he was the dude. There was no Tuba Hubbard to start. There was no Dante Foreman to start. And now you got Dante Foreman, and he's in Chicago, right? So Dante Foreman, how does that, like? And I'll say on my particular roster, I got Dante Foreman, and last year when he was the guy, he was doing pretty good, you know. So now that he's in Chicago, how does he fit into a situation where you got a running quarterback, where you have, is he gonna be a decoy, running stunts, so on and so forth? What kind of situation is he gonna be in? Is he gonna get the type of numbers that he got like mid to the end of the season last
Yeah. And once again, that impacts both directions. I mean, if Dante Foreman becomes there's another running back in Khalil Herbert in Chicago. So his value
year?
is high.
I just traded for him.
His value was high, and now the free agent signing of Dante Foreman impacts his value.
Right.
So
So
really, with Dynasty, it's a lot of guessing games until it gets closer. With redraft regular fantasy, it's even more guessing games until it gets closer.
So I think the safest part with redraft, it might be a safest part with both of them. And I'll use the flips of the coin with, and I'll use like somebody like the Cooper Cup. Like that was Cooper Cup is a sure thing, barring he doesn't get injured. You know what I'm saying? So you got Justin Jefferson, sure thing, barring he doesn't get injured. So when you're able to draft depending on your draft position, and that's the thing too. I was going to ask, what which league or which league, fantasy versus dynasty, do you think draft position is more important? Is important in both, but which one do you think is more important? Is it more important in dynasty or is it more important in redraft?
That's a good question. We're gonna take a little short break, and then I'll answer it when we get back.
All right, short break, and we'll be right back.
What's up, everybody? This is Beanie with the Welcome to the League Sports Show podcast. I just want to take this moment to thank everybody for your support. Like, follow, subscribe, all the strangers, the family, everybody who keeps supporting us so we can keep doing what we enjoy. And with that being said, back to the video.
All right, everybody, we're back. We're here with this last segment. We're going to be talking about impact of free agent moves or free agency uh, moves so far. So, Beanie, I know we talked about fantasy, where we started from, and the different types of platforms that we've used. Sleeper, of course, being the one that we're currently using. Um, the way we draft. Uh, which particular things that we can do when we're drafting in redraft leagues versus dynasty leagues. Which, like I said, man, I appreciate you guys for bringing me into the whole world of fantasy football, dynasty football. Um, it's like it's addictive. It is, man. Sometimes I'm like, oh no, I'm just joking. I most definitely have enjoyed like doing the trades and stuff. Um, Matter
I
of
think
fact,
I've
we did.
enjoyed Dynasty so much more than redraft.
And real
These
quick,
2
I'm
years
gonna
of
throw out some
Dynasty.
resources. One of the resources that you gave us today was, and I think I also heard this in um
Cheap trade cut.
another podcast. I forgot the name of the podcast. You can put the name of the podcast in the link, or we can put the link in the of the other podcast, and also this particular website, which is called keeptradecut.com, and it literally gives you an evaluation of how good or bad a trade is, and if you should add or take away something in order to make the trade even for both or all parties involved. So I think that's like a super good resource that you gave us today, man.
It's in a
And
bunch
it
of
even has a,
podcasts.
yeah, you can even prep for your draft, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Crazy.
Rookie rankings, all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff for Dynasty.
So between
But
between
that website's mainly a Dynasty centered website as far as
yeah.
rankings go.
Now with that too, we didn't talk about this with drafting in. in Dynasty, like with Dynasty leagues and also with uh redraft leagues, draft a lot of people being new, I would think like when I first started, I thought that you would kind of mirror what was going to go on in the NFL, like with the NFL draft. But that's not the situation.
No.
Like right now, for what I need in in my roster or on my roster, I already know who I'm taking first, and it's no surprise. And I already understand that there was some finagling, or somebody probably had to say something like, because everybody keeps their ears to the ground, in the league. Like you try to make sure you have good relationships with all of your league mates and all this other stuff, so that when it comes time to make a trade, it's like, all right, we in good standing with each other. Let me go see if I can get this person from this person. Let me go
Yeah.
see if I can get this person and get some picks from this person. So like right now, I lost last year.
In both leagues.
That was hard to say. You didn't have to say both leagues, man. You didn't have to say both leagues. I understand it was both leagues, man. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, my business like that. We supposed to be boys, dog.
We are.
But no, man, you don't do that. You don't just put me out there like that. I could told on my own self. It's alright though. We still cool. But neither here nor there. It wasn't no both leagues. It was all three leagues I lost in, man. I ain't, man. I had a bad year this past year.
Yeah.
First year I did pretty good. I came in fourth, but this year, some things were off. Like I said, I had a couple situations going on personally that fantasy and dynasty and stuff wasn't became non-important. The
That's
fellowship was
understandable.
important, but stuff happened. But neither here nor there. I ain't even putting it on that. Just had a bad year. A lot of the players I had ended up in bad situations.
But
So
having a bad year can be beneficial in a dynasty
yes,
league.
yes, because I have the first overall pick.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got
And
the first overall pick, which brings us to the whole drafting situation.
yeah, let's say
It's
you
like,
just asked me about
so,
that.
so yeah, so with the drafting situation, how should a person approach the draft in dynasty?
In dynasty,
Yes, in
all right,
dynasty.
in dynasty, and then this is going to be kind of like it's going to be kind of a shot, but he's my cousin. He'll get over it. Um, if he even watches the show, in dynasty, people diminish the value of the picks because nobody wants to get rookies. Nobody wants to
Yeah,
sit there and draft rookies that you don't know what they're going to do. And I understand when people are like, forget these picks. I don't want my picks. I'm going to trade away all my picks.
right,
Then comes the harsh reality that maybe I shouldn't have traded away all my picks because now I have nothing to bargain with later on this season.
yeah,
You
yeah,
get in a dynasty league, you get 3 years of picks at a time.
yeah,
You got 23, 24, and 25 this year. If you got all of them gone except one pick for next year, you have no bargaining chips if you still want to be competitive and your team falls apart midway through the season. Now, I
right,
wish it on it. Like I said, I'm not saying but I've seen people do it last year and they're doing it this offseason now too. Like, oh, forget these
yeah,
picks. And then by the end of the year, they're like, wait, I guess I got to start mortgaging my team to get some of these picks back because I need
right.
trade capital to
Now,
get better
and,
players to
and
remain competitive.
now, what you just said about mortgaging the team, that only works if you have mortgageable players. And now there are a few people that I know of in our league that have players that they actually can go back, whether they have a lot of picks, no picks, or some picks, that they have enough people on their roster that they could probably go out and pick up with two players. They could probably go pick up at least three picks, at
Oh
least
yeah,
four with
and
some of those players.
if you're gonna get rid of your picks to get players that bring you to area, championship
Yeah,
area, then you should have you should have the understanding that if it doesn't go well or the plan doesn't work, I got to get rid of these guys and get my picks back. And we've
Yeah,
seen it so much in our dynasty league. People got rid of picks and they got them right back. I
yeah,
was one of them. I was down to 3 picks as the when the free agency and our league opened back up. I started pulling all my picks back and started getting rid of stars that I had because I knew I wanted to remain competitive. And
yeah.
according to the website, I put a league in there this morning and just to show everybody what the rankings are. And current standings, the top three are Micah, Cameron, and myself with both picks and roster combined. Now, when you start
Yep.
taking those and going to specific categories, it varies and all that, and it tells you where your weaknesses is at, where you need to show that. Like right now, I need to show that. I don't have any show that quarterback.
Right.
If
Right.
I don't get a quarterback in our dynasty draft at some way, somehow, I or get a quarterback in free agency after the draft, I might not have
So
a quarterback.
so in the way that we're going to be drafting now, like I said, I know I picked first overall. I have quarterbacks, and like one of my biggest pickups this past season was Jared Goff because he like really started coming on strong around week 4, 5, 6, and it was like okay, Detroit is the stuff offensively speaking. Offensively speaking. Defensively speaking, they didn't start coming on until like maybe the last four, maybe 5 games of the season. You know, between Washington and Detroit, they were probably like two of the least fabulous. I'll say least fabulous because they're professional. Excuse me, because they're professional. But they were probably those two teams that defense really hampered them from being really good. Detroit more so than Washington, because Washington, it was kind of hit or miss. And plus, they were in a division where everybody was competitive. So
Yeah, it's
when
gonna be
you
the
get
opposite
into a
next year.
situation, yeah. So and now it's like okay, everybody's looking at the East to see what they're gonna do. So now you're looking at your roster and it's like okay, so what do I need? And it's almost, and I know what I said earlier about picking like in the NFL. I was saying that more so in you can't do what the NFL is doing. Like Carolina has first pick, right? That they got from
Chicago.
Chicago. So I wouldn't necessarily because I have the first overall pick. I don't necessarily need quarterback play. I probably need more wide receiver, running back, tight
But
end
in
type
a
play.
dynasty league where you're set at quarterback like you are, that's where your pick
Right.
needs to fall.
Right. It needs to fall in that area of a running back or a tight end or a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it's some really good running backs and tight ends, wide receivers in this draft.
Deep
Um,
class. Very deep
yeah,
class.
right. So you look at it in that particular respect, like you really are choosing this way. Whereas in a redraft league, you're probably gonna go quarterback first. And I think that was something that you checked
Yeah.
out today. Is like most by round two, all of the very very good quarterbacks were gone.
Yeah. And I was like mock drafts, mock drafts aren't accurate, but in the mock
Right.
draft that I did in our redraft league, the top was it? It was Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Hurts,
Herbert,
Lamar didn't go in the first round. Somebody else did.
because of this situation that's going on right now.
Yeah, there was like 5 or 6 quarterbacks, like boom, 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 in the mock draft. I'm like,
Right.
now that's not going to have to be our league because our league doesn't value. We're not going to take quarterback probably in the first round in our redraft league
Yeah.
unless you
Oh
get
yeah.
in,
Now redraft.
unless you're in the top 4 and you get Mahomes or Allen.
Right.
To me,
Right.
after that, it still falls off. Well,
Right.
Burrow, and then it falls off.
Right. Yeah. Now, most impactful move of the free agency period so far that you've seen.
Uh, I mean, they're all a lot of them are impactful. Brandon Cooks is going to Cowboys is impactful. Saints getting their cars impactful. The most impactful is Two, well, it's the same team. Carolina trading their number one wide receiver to move up in the draft to get a quarterback of the future. It'll probably start this year. And like you said, we're not experts, but it's probably going to be CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
And then putting an offense, turning around and moving up for that first round pick, and turning around and putting an offense of veteran wide receivers around him.
Yeah.
So that to me,
I think
that's impactful fantasy wise and impactful. Best thing you can do for a young quarterback coming in the league.
in the league itself, yeah. I think Carolina probably has done the best job so far. I'll probably say Chicago would be a close second or third, trading out of that first spot because here's one of the reasons why I like what Chicago did trading out of that first spot. One, they let Justin Fields know you're our guy, at least for this year or next
Be the
year.
man.
You're our guy, and we're gonna put people around you.
Yeah.
We're gonna go get some wide receivers. We're gonna go get some running backs. We're gonna show up our running back room, show up our wide receiver room. I want to say that they've done some things across the offensive line, trying to shore up those particular areas to make sure that he's protected. So I like that in that respect because you look at what Chicago's done for Justin Fields versus what San Francisco did for Trey Lance. It's like San Francisco said, "You're our guy, maybe, but we're gonna keep the guy that you're gonna replace just in case,
Yeah.
and we're gonna go get a guy in the seventh round or sixth round just in case." And look what happens to Trey Lance. He gets injured, and then the next thing you know, you still got Garoppolo playing. Then you got Brock Purdy. So it's an ugly situation. What are they gonna do with this dude? You know what I'm saying? When the league year comes back up, it's like, what type of confidence does he have, or any type of security that he has that he's gonna still be the guy? He
I think
doesn't.
he is.
Where with Justin Fields, but Justin Fields has that
Yeah.
security in knowing that at least for next year,
But Justin
he's
doesn't have nobody breathing on the back of his neck saying, I want
right,
your job.
right,
Where
and then
Trey Lance has
then
Brock
had the
Purdy.
job. Yeah, then had the job and did pretty good.
Yeah.
He did pretty good.
Yeah. And
Yeah. All right, man. So we're not gonna beleaguer any of this. We're gonna get ready to get out of here. If there's anything else that you could say to anybody in fantasy or dynasty, what would you say?
don't overthink it.
Gotcha.
Look, I've played, like we've been talking about this. We play fantasy. This is really fantasy football impacts and all that good stuff. And I cannot wait till it starts. Don't overthink it because when you start overthinking it, you start second guessing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just because, and for people who are new to fantasy football, we might have a new person in our league this year. We don't know yet. Not everybody's read up. But if you're new and you find this video and you're new to fantasy football, don't get discouraged if you start off bad
Yeah.
when you're 0-4 or 0-3 or 0-2. Just because you
Yeah.
start at a low, there are 14 weeks in fantasy football. Just because you start off 0-4 don't mean you finish at the bottom.
Right.
Case in point, he started off slow when he's played that first year. He finished in the rank. He
Yeah.
finished in the top four.
I finished top four. Um, Made, of course, playoffs and all that other stuff.
I've been to three championships. I've lost all three, but I've been to three championships. Every year I went to the championship, I
The
started off
Bills.
with a losing streak. I started on like a 3-game losing streak and then went to the championship. So you never know how it changes. It's all about waiver wires, and make sure
Yeah.
you have players at every position that you have
Yeah.
depth. Depth is key. That's what we talked about a lot of that. Me, you, and Logan this offseason so far, we've talked a lot about depth, especially in
Yeah.
Dynasty. You need depth because of injuries. Because there's not
Yeah. Need
there's not a
depth.
lot of free agents.
And I'm not even gonna lie, dude. I'm looking at the draft and looking at where I need depth at, and that's where I'm gonna get some of my players because and I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna go ahead and end everything. One of the things that we talk about every year because we call Welcome to the League, we always talk about rookies and how they impact the game. And you look at people like Romeo Dobbs, you look at Christian Watson, you look at Isaiah Pacheco, you look at Drake London, you look at Chris Olave. You look at a lot of these guys, and I'm talking about guys. What's uh, Kobe Durant that played with the Rams? You look at these guys and look at their impact, and they're picked all the way from first to fourth or fifth round, sixth rounds, and every single last one of these guys impacted their team's playoff potential in a positive way last season, with the exception of the Kobe Durant because he's on the defensive side of the ball. But even with that being said, he had a monster game against Denver last year. He almost got a pick six. I think he had two picks in that game. Um, some quarterback pressures, the way they used him in the defense is crazy. So you
Yeah,
never know what type of rookie you're gonna get,
exactly.
and when you're in a league like ours, and the points that they may have, it was some time. Oh, and don't snake on special teams, man. Do not snake on special
That's
teams.
why
We
Sky
didn't
Moore's on
talk
my
about
roster
that.
now.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that, especially redraft league. If you got special teams, do not snake on the special teams. Do not think that they are not
Yeah,
important. Do not think, yeah. And I'm gonna say this last thing right here. Have fun, man, and call it a
definitely.
day.
Do not let
Have
fantasy
fun.
football stress you out.
Yeah,
Um,
have fun. If you stressed out, you need to do
yeah, if
something
it's
else.
stressed out, you don't need to be doing it. If you
Yeah,
get mad because you're losing or you're having a bad week, you don't need to be doing
let
that.
that
You need
go.
to just it's up and down.
Find
Just
another hobby. Go knit or something.
yeah, go knit, go paint fences, do something, go build
Yeah,
things,
seriously, man.
something that doesn't
Yeah,
frustrate you. But on one more thing on rookies, and then we still got a few more minutes. Um, did you know? And did you know, Ezra, that in our dynasty league, people have said forget about rookies, how
yeah.
impactful they are. In our dynasty
Uh-huh.
league, every rookie but one was pulled off the taxi squad and started at some point last season.
That's crazy.
Every rookie was pulled off a taxi and started at some point that we had.
That's crazy. I'm trying to think who was the one rookie that wasn't pulled off of, and
It was
and I
on
want
Little
to say that
Josh's
person.
team. He's still on the taxi squad.
What?
Little Josh is the only one. Josh is the only one that has one player left on his taxi squad that he did not pull off his taxi squad.
Who was it? What player was it?
I have
I had to
no
find
idea.
out. Yeah, I got to go and find out, man. That's
I can look.
crazy.
Hold on, I can look it up right now.
'Cause I know I think I had Romeo Dobbs. I had Isaiah Pacheco. I had Isaiah Spiller. Um, I had uh, what's my guy?
Tyquan Thornton.
Oh, the defensive player,
No, a
right?
wide receiver.
Was he wide receiver?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, wide receiver. My bad.
Josh is the only person in our league that has the player still on taxi. Everybody else
I
has
want to
started
find
taxi
out.
because once you bring them off taxi and put them in the lineup or
Yeah,
put them on the bench, they become players.
yeah, they're there.
That's it.
Yeah,
A
dude.
few more minutes, a few more
Somebody,
things.
I was gonna say, I think Christian Watson stayed on taxi for a minute before he was finally brought off of there because
I
he
think I
was
brought
killing
most
it.
of mine off at the back end of the season because my depth was getting very, 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 very low.
Well, I brought mine more like middle of the season because half my players were in Los Angeles in some form, whether they were a Charger or a Ram, and yeah, so I was bringing people
One of
off
your
like,
rookies
hey,
is a free agent now because I had him and I cut him.
yeah, oh, you did
Yeah.
really? I have to go check that out.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I'm
I
about
cut him because I
to
needed
load
space.
up.
I have 6 picks. I only have 4 taxi spots. I need the other two
Yeah,
bench spots for rookies,
yeah, I have 7 picks and I needed to clear space, but I cleared it with this last trade that I made.
and
So
there's still a few people who got to make cuts. And
yeah,
I'm gonna make an announcement in our dynasty league. You got to have cuts by June 1st. to have your space for your incoming rookies.
Hey, I was gonna say, we're not supposed to draft until July. Last year we drafted in June.
Yeah, we
Drafted
drafted
June
early.
11th. Yeah, it was June 11th.
I think this year we're drafting mid to late July.
But look, guys, we appreciate y'all. For those of you that are listening, for those of you that come through, watch our shorts, watch our reels, watch our episodes. This
Support us in
is
any
our
fashion.
yes. Support us in any fashion. We appreciate you. Much love to every single last one of y'all. Hey man, this is WTTL. Welcome to the league. I'm Ezra Casey the third, and this is my
I
dude.
I am Beanie and the one and only. And two more things. One, God bless fantasy football. Two, deuces. See y'all next week.
Deuces, y'all. Peace.